Welcome to SaaS Unlocked. Today, I have Antony on the show. Antony is co-founder and chief revenue officer at Loopin. Loopin is like AI platform that enables managers with increased in performance, retaining great talent. I'll let Antony explain a bit more in detail. But before we start, Antony, we would like to know your backstory and your journey as an entrepreneur and how you came up with this idea of Loopin.
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, Pratik, thanks very much for having me on today. It's an absolute pleasure. And so, yeah, the journey really started. It's kind of an evolution of a multitude of different things. And, my journey really started when I was in the Marines. I did 10 years in the Marines, high performance, high trust culture, or high trust, high performance culture. And loved every minute of it. Thought it was a had a great time. And the only reason I left is because I was medically discharged around about 2017, and not really knowing what I wanted to do. I kind of just picked up all of the typical courses that you would do project management, risk management, change management, and all of those types of things, which you're supposed to do because that's what military people do. They leave this and they go into that. And of course, it was fine. And I did those courses and actually ended up not getting a job for about 6-7 months, and then found myself in a management consultancy position, which was great. Really sort of part of this, high performing sort of six person team sent in to work in the project management office and try to disrupt and get things moving, really. And it was quite high pace, quite a good intensity to it. And fantastic. Really enjoyed that experience, and I suppose in many ways set me up for a lot of what I'm doing today. So I did management consultancy for about 2 years. I then created my own company, which was a little coaching company back then, and I had about half a client until I met Ben, who's now my business partner, and we actually met on LinkedIn about 2017, early 2017, late 2017, and then got started about 2018 or so. And we kind of just put both of our heads together. We've come from a similar organization. We share similar values. We, like the idea of joining up and seeing what we can go and do. And we got started with this coaching and consulting company, and quite rapidly we found ourselves working alongside Manchester United, Wasp rugby team, HSBC, Facebook, VW, a whole host of household brands, and doing quite well within our first sort of 18 months. And then obviously 2020 came along and brought with it the pandemic, in case nobody's aware of that. And it kind of really, it set us back, but also gave us the catalyst for doing what we are doing now. And, we're 3 years in pretty much with Loopin. And really what we had noticed as being a major problem in the organizations that we worked with was that there was a significant issue when it came to data capture. So particularly when it came to people, all they did was engagement surveys and basing, strategies based off engagement surveys 6 to 9 months older, thus having a real issue when it came to a lagging indicator. It was a lagging indicator. It wasn't really a best place to be able to figure out what's happening in the now. So we saw an opportunity that if we can capture regular enough data, perhaps we might be able to support businesses by giving them a leading indicator, focusing on a very operational or operationally focused output, as in what's happening, where do you need to have the effect, and when do you need to have the effect. And that's what we've went out to go and try and conquer.
I'm looking at your site, and I would love to know why managers love Loopin. If you can just share in brief, because at the end of the day, the pain point that you're trying to solve is so important. Being a manager, managing team of people, it requires a lot of back and forth, building trust, making sure that everything is in check. So maybe if you can share why managers love Loopin.
So managers, absolutely. Those are the people that we're really trying to support here. Those are the people that are at the forefront, knows the grindstone, trying to make the thing that they're doing a success, particularly when it comes to the team. And they are often the person who is charged with that responsibility of making it a success, or ultimately not making it a success. And so managers, where we really try to support them is by giving them something that is useful, data that is useful, as opposed to just going, here's the data, go do something with it. We present it in a very readable format. We present interventions and suggestions based off that data. So from the single inputs that the rest of the team are getting, we'll then drive actions, notifications back to the manager to in effect create this high priority task list. And there may not be any priorities, and that's totally okay. But it's spotting when there is an emerging priority that needs to be sort of dealt with in the now, as opposed to I'll deal with that in 1 week or 2 weeks time, or I'll never see it until it's too late, and then I'm basically getting a slip across the table which says I don't want to work here anymore because I'm fed up. And there's a real sort of psychological element to that too, which we can talk about a bit later as well. But fundamentally, it's about giving managers that quick, viewable dashboard. What's happening in the team? Where do I need to have the effect? Without spending loads of time trying to go through analysis and inputting the data. That's one of the key things which we've done pretty well, is keep the input very low, 10 to 12 seconds maximum for the day.
Building a product like this is like so challenging, and it requires a lot of customer feedback, making sure your product market fit, and the challenges that you face, like bringing this product to the market. If you would like to share that.
I think one of the biggest things which is completely underestimated from a founder's perspective, from CEO's perspective, from anyone's perspective in sort of running a company, is timing. Timing is absolutely everything. So had we have brought this out 5 years ago, there's no way I think it would have got traction like it has. Even when we first launched this, we were struggling with traction, kind of. And I say kind of because what we're doing now, I don't think would have been pertinent to maybe 3 years ago. A lot of it was around well-being, a lot of it was around welfare, and that was really that is really one of the benefits, I suppose, sub-benefits of Loopin, is it's identifying and being that early warning system for any sort of negative trend. Bringing it to market, though, has been the most unique challenge. I think it's the hardest challenge as a founder, to actually get what you've built and then take it to market and go, I know that people are going to love it, and they're going to love it for these reasons. And you're absolutely right. We've had to listen to so much customer feedback. Obviously, give it appropriate weighting to make sure that we're not just building for a single customer, because that obviously is, no use to the wider, but just making sure that we're getting, that quality data, quality feedback back in. And I think that the most crucial thing to do, and this is obvious as I say it, but right, really knowing your message, really understanding your go-to-market, that has to be your number one job as a founder. Like, there isn't a much more of an important job as a founder, I would say. I mean, fundraising and making sure the business runs, those are kind of all the things that you have to do. But GTM is your thing. You need to know what problem you're solving, and you need to know how people are going to engage with it. And be pretty bold with that as well, I think, is key, but not too bold that you don't listen. Like, there's a fine balance.
So since you have started solving this problem statement, and facing the challenges of messaging, and fine tuning it and making it correct, how do you see that this product has evolved since it's launched?
It's evolved drastically. We started off as a basic check-in, and the reason we started off as a basic check-in, and I talked very briefly about this welfare piece to begin with. So back in 2019, Ben and I were at 4 funerals together, and these are all friends that we worked alongside with some time ago. And I think one particular one, Chris, who unfortunately took his own life in 2019, along with the rest of them, 10 years earlier, I was in Afghanistan with him, going through the same doors, and kind of 10 years later he calls it a day, and 10 years later I'm more excited than ever. What took place in that time? Surely there were some early warnings to identify that this is, we're not on the right track here.
Yeah.
And we kind of took that experience and placed that into Loopin. It's not about a checkup, it's the checking in. We're doing this, we're checking in, looking for those early warnings, flags or whatever it might be, to identify where there might be a problem occurring. And that's how we basically started. We were like, let's just do a check-in, let's just try to understand people, let's get people understanding one another, because we know from our past in the Marines particularly, that having that awareness to the person to the left and to the right of you, that's about building trust, that's about building team awareness and team resilience. And so we started with a really ugly baby. Like, quite frankly, it was gross, but it served a purpose. It served a very basic purpose. Then you listen to more customer feedback and you iterate and you iterate. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we last year started to implement AI into the system, and then some more AI, because of obviously ChatGPT, which, everyone knows about that, right? I would imagine most people know about that. And
building this podcast questionnaires or writing an email to potential prospect, we use it every day now. Definitely, it has evolved significantly.
And I think like this, I read a really interesting book, maybe a year and a bit ago. It's called The Future is Faster Than You Think. Mm-hmm. And I've always loved this idea of being able to converge technology. So this convergence of technologies, people are building this great technology out here, people are building this great technology over here. And then the blend of those, what can you go and create with the blend of those technologies? And I think like that is the really exciting bit about where we've managed to take this to when it comes to the AI element. Mm-hmm. Of being able to direct really relevant content back to the manager, back to the user, and the advancements in the actual platform itself have been incredible. We've built a lot of features. Some are used more than others, and some not so used. And we've kind of taken those ones out, replaced them, refined it, and made sure that we're doubling down on the ones that are being used.
Wow. So it's been a while that you launched this product, and you are quite successful in terms of what you're doing, right? And I'm sure, during your journey, there are a lot of things that has contributed to your success. So what are the key factors that you think that has led you to the success of Loopin?
Not giving up. Definitely.
It's very hard. Like the first year, most of the founders give up on their ideas because there are a lot of, maybe the idea itself is not something that they were passionate about, and they don't feel that spark anymore, or they don't get funding, or they don't have the right team members. So not giving up is like one of the key factors.
Yeah, because you face so much rejection. There's two. I don't know this, but there's two, like, of all the fears, the two most common fears in the world is fear of rejection and fear of failure. Those are like the biggest fears that everybody has. And like, those are the fears that you have to overcome to be a successful founder, because it's ridiculous. And, I remember when we were first going through our investment round, like the first time, I think we must have gone through 30, 40 angel investors. Mm-hmm. And we had people come back on a second call just to tell us how much they didn't like it, when they kind of like led us down the garden path. They obviously got plenty of time to sort of waste, and we didn't. And it's just really insane. It's really hard. It's really tough. Like it's insane. So sticking with it, I think you've got to find the right team. And I say the right team at the right time. And this goes back to my point about timing, is we've hired not necessarily poor people. Not at all. Just not the right person at the right time for the right things that need to be done in the business. And that's on me, that's on Ben for making those choices. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard to swallow when you have to turn around to that person sort of 12 months later and go, look, this isn't working out. Like, we haven't done you, a service here, because we hired you incorrectly. And I think like that's the hardest thing. So hiring at the right time, is key. But then also you do hire some really fantastic people, and that's part of it as well.
Well, maybe I can add to the conversation here, whether it may be a startup or whether it may be anything you're doing in life, right? So persistence is required, consistency is required. When I started my LinkedIn journey, like, I decided to post for 1,000 days. My first post took like almost 7 hours for me to write. No one liked it, just one like, and it was my wife. So if you see, if I would have given up in like first 10, 50 days, I won't be reaching the community that I've built today. So at least for first 6 months, nothing happened. No post went viral. Nobody was caring that I was sharing, right? Similarly, it's with the product, right? The finding the first 100 customer is super challenging. And once you have that, you build that momentum, you build that confidence. And that will eventually give you success. So first, I would say 3 years are very, very important to the journey, as anything you do in your career.
100%, 100%. I'll just bolt one extra thing on that.
Absolutely.
Is making sure you got some good people around you. That was one of the things which, again, lesson from the military, lesson from the Marines, was surround yourself with excellence. Do surround yourself with excellence. Caution to the window. Make sure those people are of quality, and you won't know that until you go through it, because it's one of the things as a founder is it's deafening. The noise is deafening. As a founder, you're like, I must listen to this, I must action that, I must listen to this, I must action that. And actually that's not all true at all.
So what advice, you would give any aspiring entrepreneur who's looking to build a similar product, not like in the same industry? I'm just talking like any product that they're trying to build. What are the things that they should consider?
Well, I mean, we had already pre-identified our problem. So we'd spent 2 years working in that space, understanding that space. And I suppose in many ways, understanding high performance, high performing teams, because we were part of a high performing team for, best part of 10 years. So really knowing your space and owning your space is super important. And that is probably one of the things which I think I see a few other founders. They're just like, I'll go and like build dog treats or whatever. Now, sure, that might be successful. I mean, you see a lot on e-commerce, right? You see a lot of like, come and be an entrepreneur and come and do this thing. And I think that gives a really bad impression as to actually people trying to build really quality companies, founders of really quality companies. It's not easy. Like if you might go 6 months, you don't have a single customer.
Yeah.
Do you give up? No, because you know what you're going to bring to market is going to be game changing. And I think like there's plenty of times when you kind of question yourself. I've questioned myself and gone, do I really know what I'm talking about? Well, yeah, of course I am. Like I'm best placed to know what to talk about when it comes to high performing teams. Yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. And I think so definitely knowing your space is absolutely crucial. Never underestimate the amount of work. Like estimate it's going to be tons and tons of work, then estimate it by like 5 times more. And then, have that patience as well to see it through. Patience is really underestimated, because the whole world is going to tell you that you're getting it wrong. And it's kind of up to you to hold fast when everyone's blaming it on you. And, the reality is that you're beginning to question yourself. Don't question yourself. And I think like, if you've got a solid idea, if you've got a solid problem that you want to solve, just stick with that and try and, remain humble. Not too humble that it becomes, you don't want humility to come across as timidity. Like that's never good.
Perfect.
But I think that, really believing in what you're doing is the special sauce. Like everyone asks for it. Like that's the ingredient.
Thank you for sharing that, Anthony. There's one thing happening in the industry right now with AI and automation is being like a buzzword these days. What trends you've been seeing, in specifically like HR space? or like, high performing teams like product that are like Loopin or any other product that helps support managers in making sure that team is delivering efficiently, their pulse is okay, checking in with them. What do you think that industry holds for next 5 years?
I see one big thing changing, one huge thing changing. When you kind of just got to the understanding of what one part of it is, but I think it's going to change very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And that is this drive towards building soft skills within people. So for so many years, and we kind of predicted this really in some of the work when we had the coaching consulting company, we had this 4 skills model, right? And we had the inner skill, soft skill, hard skill, and professional skill. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the different layers. And if you only focus on the professional skill, you create this inverted pyramid. And professional skill at the top, and actually when you go into the workplace you're quite unstable and it doesn't take much for you to push you over. Whereas if you build on your soft skills, if you build on the inner skills, your fundamentals, your foundations, you build a pyramid that is very robust and can take a lot. Yet this point is kind of big and extensive as well, because you've got the levels. You can build so much more on a solid base. And so I think there's a really big push to build up soft skills, of which one of those key elements, and the corporate world will always do this. They'll go, we want more resilient people. Mm-hmm. We need more resilient people, without really understanding what true resilience is. And true resilience is knowing yourself and understanding yourself and being confident and being able to place yourself in an organization or a team or whatever it might be, or yourself. Self is really, really key, understanding yourself. And I think that particularly when it comes to what we're doing with the learning and development arena, there's going to be a much bigger focus on building up individuals, building up teams. With technology now, I do think there is the opportunity with AI, with what we're doing as well. There is a real opportunity to have that regularity, that cadence of self-training, which was never possible before. Mm-hmm. And I think that the big thing is, you can't stick everybody through 32 weeks of Royal Marines training. I say this quite often when I'm in pitches. I'm like, you can't set people into 32 weeks of Royal Marines training. But what you can do is you can give them a kind of 0.1% objective per day. And now with AI, now with ChatGPT and so on and so forth, and that convergence to technologies, we can actually start delivering that 0.1% of skill development per day. It's kind of like taking the Duolingo effect mm-hmm. with learning. Well, mm-hmm. You need to learn that also about yourself. What's that classic saying? If you work harder on your job, you become better. Or if you work harder on your job, something like that. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Let me get that right. You work harder on yourself than you do on your job. You're going to be a more competent individual. It's kind of words to that effect. And I think I would love to see more of that as well.
Maybe I want to ask you something. Let's say you are looking to build a team and you are hiring, right? What do you look in that talent? Like 1 or 2 main things that is like a check that person needs to be in the team.
Big one is it's not around professional skill always. It's around resilience. It's definitely around resilience. You don't have to look very far for some research papers to show that those individuals who have a higher resilience are something like 28-29% more likely to go on and overperform than compared to things such as like humility and critical thinking. Mm-hmm. So I don't particularly look for those skills. You need somebody who's obviously technically skilled when you've got like a business that we've got, like software company. Mm-hmm. But I definitely look for that inner, how far can you go? What have you done before, which shows that you've got the grit. And I think grit is like a really key word as well.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That brings to our next round, which is rapid fire round, where we ask founders 5 questions. And this is more on the entrepreneur or founder side of you or personal side of you. So here's the first one. Name one other company and CEO that inspires you and why.
I think probably Ryan Peterson from Flexport. because I mean he's not the CEO anymore. I think it's been a recent change, but Flexport for what it's trying to do is just like on another level of vision. To be able to see that problem and go, that's something that needs solving. I mean, it doesn't sound overly exciting, but excites, I don't know why, but it excites the hell out of me. And I think like making those kind of mega changes in the way in which freight is delivered and everybody's queued up, there's a process to it. And if that person dips out, then you just go into the next person. Like how it's all pieced together is just like mind-bogglingly incredible. And I think like the bit which I just look at and go, wow, is it has to be the vision piece. I'm just like, that's insane. Incredible problem, huge problem, $8 trillion problem, I think, something like that. And to be able to go in and just be like, look, this is how we're going to go and try and tackle it. Like those kind of people inspire me hugely.
Wow. And second question is, what's one of the best business advice you've ever received?
Oh, there's loads. It really is so many. I think business, like true business, and if you ask me, it's kind of around sales. Sales is key, and it's got to be fortune in the follow-up. So don't ever assume, and this is one of the big things which I see a few founders do, is build like these most amazing businesses, and then it's like kind of like we build Rome and they will come, and like it's that no. We live in a world of attention, and if you're not putting anything out to grab anyone's attention, is one thing. And then if you're unwilling to then follow up with that person, you're going to lose. Like fact, you have to be obsessive about following up with people.
It's all about touch points. Because I'm into marketing for a decade plus, right? It's like, before even like, you're in the awareness stage and not having that touch points with the prospect, even though if he's like in the conversation, you need to make sure that you are like following up. And I can't agree enough on what you said, the fortune in the follow-up. I might quote you on that on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. No
well
problem.
said. And it's what we do in the business, right? If business is not generating revenue, at the end of the day, there won't be business. So well said. What's one skill that has helped you become successful?
Probably communication, being able to hear people. My grandma always said to me, she was like, you got two of those and one of those. And that's just stuck with me forever. And it's kind of like, make sure you're always the person that's listening. Make sure you're always the person that's not, the first thing and the last thing is said comes from your mouth, because guess what? It kind of falls onto deaf ears. Like that's where I think that phrase comes from. And I think, communication is listening, and it's also speaking. And if you become a really great listener, you can look out and you can pick things that perhaps if you were just like there going blah 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 blah, you'd miss. And so I think being able to like soak that up and go, I'm going to make an evaluation on that, and I'm going to say something of value. People more often than not listen to that because it's you've qualified it almost in your own mind. So I think definitely communication is at the heart of everything. I mean, that's a belief I have anyway, but I think, I've worked so hard on my communication for sure.
There's one book that I read, which is like How to Win with People. And one of the key aspects to doing that is listening, and listening carefully, and like, responding in a way that person feel that I was listening and being attentive to the conversation. That kind of builds that rapport that is required for building the long-term relationship with anyone that is you're talking to.
100%. And if you think about it, we live in a world where it's like that. It's easy to sometimes forget that, actually just be like, dial it down. Let's have that conversation. Okay, I hear you. I see you. Hey, let's go and talk about that thing. Here's my advice. Or maybe there isn't a time for advice. And I think, you just need to listen to what that person is saying. And maybe that's all they need. Like, and that's a good skill to have.
Usually, like, people take communication, maybe it's underrated. And I would say people like usually respond because they want to, and they don't like, care about what other people are saying. So I think it's one of the skills that has helped me become successful as well. So this entrepreneurial journey that you are on is a roller coaster ride, right? Managing teams, building product. Now, again, building product, managing team is one part of the business, but you need to bring sales, marketing, all of the stress goes behind to running this business. Requires huge motivation. What motivates you the most?
I think, I've always been very values driven, purpose driven. So if the the juice is worth the squeeze, I mean, it's cheesy as hell, right? But like, I genuinely believe on this one, the juice is worth the squeeze. If there is a genuine opportunity for people to benefit from what Ben and I have built, and if somehow we can put in aspects of us into that platform, because really what we're looking for is to equip people with a set of fundamental skills, and we can do that on scale. That kind of stuff is like, I'm going to get out of bed every day for that, because I'm going to go until a fat lady sings and someone tells me I can't do it anymore. Like, no way. But I'm never going to give up, because it's a mission that I think is worth just going at and keep going at. And no one's going to take me out. That's for sure. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going.
Excellent. Now, there's a final question, and it's it's one of my favorites. What movie or book or TV show that has changed your life?
So 100% books for me. A few movies, probably not any that, the one that comes to mind is The Compound Effect and The One Thing. And I picked up those two particular books at a time when I was like leaving the military, or just about to leave the military. And I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't really know what happens after this point. Everything has been pretty structured in the world which I've been in. And so The Compound Effect, I don't know why, it just clicked with me. It was just like, look, if you do this and then you do a bit more of that, and then you do a bit more of that, and you do a bit more, it starts to pay this compound interest over time. You can't see anything for ages, but eventually you'll go, right at the last minute, when it really starts to gain momentum, and you completely moved it out of inertia, and we're hurtling towards things. Do you really start to go, wow, we're there, like we're on it? So I think The Compound Effect is just, I kind of took that as a mantra for my own life. If I go do something like Loopin, I'm just going to keep compounding on it, keep turning up, keep doing what I need to do until that moment when it just goes. Whew. So that was a big one.
I think it's more on like, starting small and then building on it. For example, planting a tree, which might take years, and then it will give you fruits forever, right? So
100%.
that is,
if nurtured correctly.
If nurtured correctly, that is also important, which is like weather, water, and a lot of other factors involved. So thank you for sharing that. Almost that wraps up the session. But before we end this, I want to give you an opportunity to share on how Loopin can impact leaders out there, and where they can start their free trial and even reach out to you if required.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm completely reachable on LinkedIn. So Antony Thompson, if you head over to their co-founder and CRO, Loopin. You can also go to letsloopin.com, letsloopin, LETSLOOPIN.com, and you can start your free trial there. So you can just auto download to Slack. If you need to be on Teams, you can connect with us there. So that's the way to contact us. If you're a leader and you've got a team and you're consistently feeling overwhelmed, and you're kind of like, I wish there was a mechanism where I understood, but I didn't have to spend too much time understanding what's going on with my team. And imagine if there was this little coach in a pocket, this little sidekick, which just told me occasionally where I need to have an effect and when I need to have the effect. And I trusted this coach in a pocket, this kind of sidekick in my pocket. Then Loopin is for you. Like, Loopin is the tool which is going to help you get those additional skills, identify where you need to take that action today, and kind of leave you be that additional team member to leave you alone to do the other important tasks that you're going to have to do as a manager or as a leader. And I think like it's freeing up time whereby you're otherwise spending a lot of time investigating, understanding, and by the time you do the investigating and understanding, you're kind of like, I don't have no time for the action. So we're just driving those actions directly to you based off how your team are doing, and that's really who it's for.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anthony, for taking the time and talking to us on SaaS Unlocked today. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Until next time, this is Pratik Thakker signing off.